Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something truly terrifying, sleep paralysis. It's that chilling moment when you wake up but can't move, can't scream, and sometimes you feel a presence in the room watching you. We'll explore 5 horrifying sleep paralysis experiences that real people have faced. Each one is different, but all share that same bone-deep fear of being conscious yet completely trapped. These stories will take you into the darkest corners of the night, where fear becomes real and the unknown lurks right beside your bed. So settle in, because once you hear these stories, you may think twice before closing your eyes tonight. The first story begins with a woman named Clara. She had never experienced sleep paralysis before, but one night changed everything. She woke up in the middle of the night, eyes open, but her body frozen. Confusion washed over her as she tried to move her fingers, her legs, anything. Nothing responded. She told herself it must be a bad dream, but then she noticed something horrifying. At the corner of her room, a dark figure stood, tall and motionless. Its head was tilted, as if studying her. Clara tried to scream, to call out for help, but her voice wouldn't come. The shadow slowly moved closer, silent, gliding across the floor without sound. She felt pressure on her chest, as if invisible hands were crushing her. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. The figure leaned over her, its face an empty void. Just when she felt she would die of fear, she snapped awake, able to move. The room was empty, but what haunted her was the sensation, those hands pressing her down. For weeks she slept with lights on, terrified it would return. In another case, there was a college student named Alex. He had been studying late into the night, stressed and exhausted. That night he collapsed into bed, hoping for deep sleep. Instead, he entered a nightmare he couldn't escape. He woke up paralyzed. His eyes were fixed on the ceiling. A loud buzzing filled his ears like static. Then out of the corner of his eye, he saw something crawling along the wall. It was small at first, like a shadowy creature with long limbs. It moved jerkily, almost like a spider, but humanoid. It scuttled along the ceiling, stopping directly above him. Alex felt his breath vanish. The creature's head twisted downward, its face warped, with eyes like hollow wells. It stared into him. He tried to blink, to look away, but couldn't. Then it descended, slowly lowering itself until it hovered inches from his face. He felt its icy breath. There were no words, no sounds, just terror. Finally, he broke free and leapt from bed, gasping. But for days after, he could still hear that buzzing when he tried to sleep. The third story is from a man named Daniel, who experienced sleep paralysis repeatedly. His story took a darker turn. One night, he awoke unable to move, but this time, he was not alone. A woman sat at the edge of his bed. She wore a white dress, but her hair covered her face. She didn't move, didn't speak, only sat there. Daniel tried to convince himself she wasn't real, but then she began to rock back and forth slowly. A low humming filled the room, a haunting lullaby. He struggled to scream, but his throat was locked. She lifted her head slightly, showing a glimpse of her face, cracked skin, empty eyes. She whispered, "I've been waiting." Daniel felt cold spread through his body, as if she was draining the warmth from him. She reached out, her hand inches from his chest. Just before she touched him, he woke, drenched in sweat. But from that night onwards, every time Daniel experienced paralysis, she returned. Each visit, she got closer. Then there was a young girl named Sophie. She suffered from sleep paralysis since childhood. But one encounter remained etched in her memory. She woke one night, unable to move. The room was silent, but she sensed someone standing at her door. Slowly it opened. A tall, thin silhouette stepped inside. Its limbs were unnaturally long, dragging behind like loose ropes. It didn't walk, it floated. It approached, stopping beside her bed. Sophie tried to close her eyes, but even her eyelids were frozen. The entity leaned down, bringing its face close. She saw no features, just a smooth, pale surface. It raised a finger to where its lips should be, a gesture of silence. Then it whispered with a voice that echoed in her mind, "Not yet." She felt her soul tremble. The next morning she told no one, but years later she dreamed of it again, and each time it whispered the same words as if waiting for something. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a man named Jorge. Unlike the others, he didn't see a figure. He heard it. He woke up at night, paralyzed but fully conscious. His room was pitch black. Suddenly, a voice began whispering in his ear. He couldn't see anyone, but the voice was clear, close, too close. It spoke in a language he didn't understand, and low, guttural, ancient. Then it laughed. The laugh was slow, crackling, like broken glass. Jorge felt tears slide down his face. The whisper moved to the other ear. It didn't speak, only breathed, heavy and wet. He felt something touch his arm, cold, clammy. He begged in his mind for it to stop. The voice hissed a single word before vanishing. Mine. When Jorge finally could move, he bolted from his bed. He slept on the floor of his brother's room for weeks, but sometimes in the silence of night, he still hears that laugh. Sleep paralysis is often explained by science as a disruption between mind and body, a moment when the brain wakes but the body remains asleep. But those who have lived through it insist there is something more, something unexplainable. It's not just the inability to move, it's the presence, the feeling that something else is there with you. Many describe the same things: a weight on the chest, a shadowy figure, whispers in the dark. Cultures across the world have their own names for it: the night hag, the demon on the chest, the shadow man. But the experience is universal. That primal fear, that silent scream stuck in the throat. Some say these entities are born from our deepest fears, hallucinations shaped by our terror. But others believe they are real, feeding on our helplessness. People who never met share identical descriptions of the same figures. How is that possible? How do so many see the same woman in white, the same shadow at the door? Could it be that sleep paralysis opens a door to a different realm, one where we are vulnerable, one where something watches? Imagine waking, your mind racing, your body frozen. The room looks the same, yet everything feels wrong. You sense breathing that isn't yours. You feel eyes that you cannot see. You try to move, to scream, but nothing comes. Seconds feel like hours. In that moment, logic fades. There is only fear. And when you finally break free, you're left with questions. Was it just a trick of the mind? Or did something truly visit you? Many people who experience sleep paralysis are afraid to sleep again. They change their routines, leave the lights on, avoid lying on their back. Some pray before closing their eyes. Others keep music playing in the background. Because those who have felt that terror know it can return at any moment. One night you sleep peacefully. The next you wake to darkness, trapped, and something is watching. What makes these stories so terrifying is how real they feel. Not like dreams, which fade. These memories stay sharp, every detail carved into the mind. The smell of the room, the sound of breathing, the weight on the chest. Even years later, they remain. Some people encounter different figures each time. Others are haunted by the same entity, returning night after night. One woman described how she felt a hand stroke her hair during paralysis. Another said she heard her name whispered over and over. A man claimed he saw his deceased mother standing at the foot of his bed, only for her face to suddenly rot away. These aren't just nightmares. They are encounters with something unknown, something we cannot explain. Scientists say it's hallucination, but those who have felt that cold presence swear it was real. Maybe there are things we're not meant to understand. Maybe in those moments between sleep and wake, we glimpse a world beyond our own, a world where shadows breathe, where whispers linger, where fear becomes flesh. Sleep paralysis reminds us how vulnerable we are, trapped in our own bodies, unable to fight, unable to flee. It shows us that the greatest horror is not outside, it's within the mind, waiting in silence. And when night falls and the world goes quiet, that is when it returns, watching, waiting. If you've ever experienced sleep paralysis, you know the terror. If you haven't, consider yourself lucky. But remember, tonight, when you close your eyes, when your body grows heavy and your mind drifts, there is a moment, a thin line, where we are neither asleep nor awake. And in that moment, something may be waiting. Thank you for watching. If you've had your own sleep paralysis experience, share it below. But be warned, once you speak of it, it may come back. Until next time, sleep well if you can.